Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 62, and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish has had a lot of controversy around it. It's very unique, and quite possibly, in fact it's not even there, it's definitely the rarest fish in the world. Today we are going to be talking about the devil's hole pupfish. So devil's hole pupfish, or scientific name Cyprinodon diabolus, and then as Cyprinodon diabolus, is part of the family Cyprinodontidae. This is the family of pupfish. Pupfish are known for being in extreme isolated situations. They're found in really rare locations. They're found in unique places, super hot water, super cold water, just all over. They're primarily North American. But they are very unique. Now, the devil's hole pupfish is the smallest pupfish species the smallest pupfish species in the genus Cyprinodon. Remember, its scientific name was Cyprinodon diabolus, so its genus is Cyprinodon. And it is the smallest pupfish in that genus. They have lengths of up to 30 millimeters, which is 1.2 inches. But more often than not, you're going to have an average length of about 0.9 inches. There are different colors between the males and females. Here is a very good picture of a male. Males are more this kind of darkish brown. They really get this metallic blue down the sides. And then the margins of the fins, especially the edges, are really dark, except for their dorsal fin. Their dorsal fin is basically just all. They have this kind of violet sheen on their gill covers as well. That's called their opercle flaps, by the way. But, they got these shiny black golden fins, kind of a goldish back. It's hard to tell in this picture, but when you look at them from the top down, they have almost like a gold. The females, which you can kind of tell here, and you can definitely tell in this picture better, they're a much more muted yellow color. That's why I was looking for pictures for so long, was just because it was hard to find a female picture. But females are much more muted yellow, with yellow on the margins of their fins, except for their dorsal fin as well. And their gill covers, and you can tell it on this one a little bit, their gill covers are actually more of a metallic green. Very metallic green. It is definitely not popular in aquariums, Tavi, and we'll go why in a little bit detail later. Now, these fish basically eat whatever's available. They eat, whatever they can, aquatic insects. They eat feces dropped from above. I mean, they kind of eat anything. They are not picky. And they have an extremely odd reproduction. During spawning, especially brought upon by a disturbance. Spawning brought upon by a disturbance, there will be several males that chase single females until the females decide that they are ready for reproduction. At which point the female allows one of the males, I don't know how she picks them, she allows one of the males to swim next to her. And then the female lays an egg that immediately gets fertilized by the male. Now, let me be very clear. Lays an egg. We've talked about fish that have laid 600,000 eggs at one time. Devil's hole pupfish females have a very low fecundity, means reproductive rate, for lack of a better, without going into detail. They basically only produce 4 or 5 egg cells, ova, in the breeding season. There's basically none. Essentially, a mature female during spawn is thought to produce 1 egg. That's 1 millimeter in diameter. 1 egg, 1 millimeter in diameter. That's it. Now you can say see why this fish is very endangered. But we'll get into that just a little bit. In fact, we're getting into it right now. Now, you remember that I said that pupfish are known for being an extreme and isolated situation. And if you've been following the channel for quite a while, you would realize that almost always, every time I do one of these, I talk about where the fish can be found before I talk about anything else. I didn't do that this time. And the reason why is that this fish is no exception to be found in an extreme and isolated situation. They are found in southwestern Nevada in the Amargosa Desert. So they're found in the middle of a desert, right? That's pretty unique, but it's better. The name of this fish is Devil's Hole. Well, their living situation very much reflects that. Devil's Hole is a water-filled cavern on the hillside. So this picture right here encompasses I think the picture says this picture is 95% of the entire area where this fish is found. Exactly, it is a microbiome. Devil's Hole is this water-filled cavern in the hillside. It's got an elevation of about 730 meters, which is 2,400 feet. And what's even more interesting is that the water is a very constant temperature of 33 degrees Celsius, 91 degrees Fahrenheit. This water is really, really warm. To give you an example on size, the surface area of this pool is 22 meters long by 3.5 meters wide. So 72 feet by 11.5 feet. That's it. But it gets much more challenging. Talk about that in just a second. Something interesting about the Devil's Hole, though, is that it has a depth of at least 130 meters, 430 feet. There is one scientist that has been quoted saying that this may be the smallest habitat in the world containing the entire population of a vertebrate species. Yes, it is deep, but the fish are not found that deep. Fish have been found as deep as 24 meters, that's 80 feet, but their numbers are most dense above depths of 15 meters, so 49 feet. Basically, they're not found below 50 feet. You might find a couple of stragglers down there around 80, but there's a lot of water they do not use. Something interesting about this picture, though, we talked about how this Devil's Hole is, a really small area. Well, this shelf right here, approximately 0.3 meters deep, which is just under a foot in depth. At this end of the Devil's Hole, there is this small rock shelf, and that rock shelf is about 3.5 meters by 5 meters, so 11 by 16 feet. That shelf is actually where they're found. They depend on this shelf, this little rock shelf, for everything. It's part of their food source. Remember, they eat everything. So they'll eat bugs, they eat the algae, they eat pretty much anything. We'll get into about what they're eating. But yes, this shallow shelf is where they spawn. It's where they eat. They eat, it's everything. There's a bunch of research that indicates that the annual population is in response to the amount of algae on this shelf. Especially because, think about what they're eating. They're eating that, they're eating this. They really depend on that algae because there's a bunch of owls that used the cliff walls as roosting or nesting sites. And then their nutrient-rich pellets actually fall in the water, and that's what actually causes nutrients to come into this little microbiome and what causes this algae growth. So they're very, very dependent on it. So think about it, they have this giant area, 11.5 meters by 72 feet by 11.5 feet, 22 meters long, 30.5 meters wide. They're really entirely bound to that 3.5 meters by 5 meters. It is crazy. And as you can imagine, this small area is very susceptible to disturbance. One of the main problems and one of the main controversies of Devil's Pupfish is the fact of groundwater wells can deplete this level. So there, in the late 1900s, there were groundwater wells being popped that depleted the aquifer level that exposed the rock shelf. So as they pumped water out of the ground, it would lower the water here, because this is completely groundwater dependent. It doesn't get any rainwater. I mean, it gets rainwater when it's right on top of it, but it doesn't get much surface. And remember, this is in a depth. Very, very. In addition to that, humans can obviously impact this in other ways. Well, in 2004, a flood took all this scientific monitoring equipment right here and pushed, basically disconnected it, which killed about 80 pupfish. In April 2016, and this is the one that gets really tricky, and these people did go to jail, just so you know. In April 2016, 3 men broke into the protected area. This is a protected area that only scientists have. They may do like tours or something, I don't know. But they broke into this area and they destroyed the equipment and then waded onto the shelf. So they were walking around on the shelf, killing those eggs and larvae, and then they vomited into the water. So vomiting, they were most likely well inebriated. But that caused a population problem. So, you know, we talk about causing the deaths of 80 pupfish. You know, why do we care about 8? Or let me rephrase it. I didn't remember I said this endangered. By the way, this entire thing about the Devil's Hole, that's the interesting fact of the video. So, you know, 80 pupfish, how significant is it? Is it that significant, or is it not? Well, to give you an example, in 2019, in the spring of 2019, 2.5 years ago, the pupfish population reached 136 individuals. That is the highest springtime population since 2000. So does that give you an example? 80 fish probably wiped out half the population at the time, around there. This fish, maybe 200-300. It's insane. Caused a ton of controversy. There's plenty of people that want to basically ignore the pupfish and say they've invested too much money, and then there's other people that say save the pupfish. I'm not going to take a stance on this. I see both sides of the argument. It's in a very important ecosystem, and I love this species, but we have already invested in like the last 10 years over $8 million just for this one fish. I can definitely see why people would want to fight against this fish. Obviously, I want the fish to survive. I'm a scientist. Love this. It's an incredibly unique ecosystem, a little microsystem, incredibly unique, but you know, in living realistically, that is a ton of money for a fish. But anyway, thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you. I'd really appreciate it. Hopefully you like the intro. It has been an incredible addition. But once again, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones.